Hey, before we dive in, I wanted to tell you about Bake It, a one-day celebration of all things baking, happening March 16th at Monroeville Convention Center. Whether you're a home baker, aspiring baker, or you just love a good bite, this event is for you. With sampling and shopping, along with live demos and workshops from bakers across the city. Again, Bake It is happening Sunday, March 16th at the Monroeville Convention Center. You can find tickets at goodtastepittsburgh.com. All right, let's get into it. Welcome to the Pittsburgh Dish. I'm your host, Doug Heilman. How does making homemade pasta captivate millions? We'll learn all about it from this week's guest. Where are you brunching lately? For Becca Hansborough, it's Balvanera. And if you're coveting eggs right now for dishes that you deem worthy, we have a comforting family recipe from HongChing Cheung. All that ahead. Stay tuned. Thank you so much for coming over and for being on the show.
Of course. Would
you introduce yourself to our listeners and what you have going on right now in the world of food?
Yeah, so my name is Ryan Peters. Most everyone on the internet knows me as Peters Pasta. I'm a former chef turned content creator that's just kind of found my lane in this world of sharing my passion for pasta with the world and being able to do that in a unique way, in a way that's kind of just, built this brand for myself that, even 5 years ago, I never thought was possible. Mm-hmm. So just allowed me to do, a lot of cool different things around the country. But it all kind of comes back to pasta, which is where I wanted it to be.
Yeah, it's at the core.
Yeah.
All right, Ryan, that was a great introduction. I do just want to say for any of our listeners out there that are slightly in the dark about you.
Yeah.
Almost 8 million people follow you across all of your socials. I have told you this face to face before. I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't understand.
I mean, I love it for you. I love it so much. But the main action in your video is you're making usually egg yolk pasta.
Yep.
And I had another side question. Where do all the whites go?
Yeah, so I eat a lot of egg whites. I've got a chest freezer in my studio. It's just little pint containers full of egg whites.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And across the socials, I think it's like 5 million on TikTok.
Yep.
Like 2.5 million on YouTube. Mm-hmm. I mean, the rest everywhere else. You're getting close to 800,000 on Instagram right now.
Yep.
That was like the bit of research I did.
Yeah, I love it.
But I think it's such an interesting story because you were a little bored, right, during COVID, that things were locked down. Is that when you started doing these videos?
So it happened right before the pandemic began. I was working in restaurants and I'd always been really, really good at documenting everything I did as a chef, whether that be through, little journal notebook that I had at work or photos or videos or whatever it was. I just love to document what I did, even just to post on Instagram and get, 50 likes. You know what I mean? I wasn't doing it for that. So I kind of had this backlog of content that I didn't realize was content. This was summer of 2019. And my younger brother was out here visiting my wife and I, and all he was talking about was TikTok.
Oh,
I had never heard of it, but I'm starting to now hear about it a lot at that point.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I decided to download it and I posted my first video ever on TikTok, at least. It was a 6-second clip of me making cavatelli on a gnocchi board. Mm-hmm. And that video got 500,000 views overnight.
That's crazy.
And that's just kind of where it all began. And it's snowballed into where we're at today.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
And we should probably take a step back, but I do want to talk more about your social climb in the creator space. You have been a professional chef for years. Yeah. You went to IUP, Indiana University of Pennsylvania.
Yep, in Punxsutawney, home of Groundhog's Day.
Did you grow up in the local area?
No, so I grew up in Reading, Pennsylvania, about an hour outside of Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. And from a very, very young age, all I ever wanted to do was be a chef.
Yeah.
Not really sure where that came from, but, knew from a young age it's what I wanted to do. So I worked in restaurants in high school, went to a VOTEC school, and then went to IUP for their 1-year culinary program, and then just started working out kind of all over the country in different restaurants and clubs and resorts and things. So
you took a long stint down in Florida, right?
Yep. I went down to the Reef Club in Key Largo. It's the #1 private club in the country. Worked there for 1 season on my externship, left, came to Pittsburgh for the first time actually, and then ended up going back there for about 4 years. working as a banquet chef down there.
Okay. And then there was some Sunday evening in, I think it was 2017, I was having dinner.
Yeah.
Outside on the seats in front of Taco downtown.
Uh-huh.
And this lovely blonde girl.
Which, by the way, I'll tell you, I told my wife last night that I was coming over here today. I was like, I don't know if you're going to remember this guy. So I showed her you, and she's like, oh, I remember him. Go ahead. I'm sorry for cutting you off.
No, that's good. Actually, if you tell this story. Yeah, so I was new to Instagram also then. Mm-hmm. And I almost feel like at that point in 2017, almost embarrassed taking pictures of my food before I eat it, but I did.
Yeah.
And then I looked over and I saw this woman take a picture of her food, and it was your wife.
Yeah.
And we struck up a conversation, and you two were about to open your first concept.
Yep.
Remind us the name.
It was called Brunoise inside of Smallman Galley.
Yeah. One of the first galley locations here in Pittsburgh. And I love that space.
It was fantastic.
The grittiness and the whole decor. Papa J's is in there now.
Yep.
And you guys were open for a solid year, right?
Yep. We did a 1 year. It was the 1 year term that they had for the class of chefs at that time. And yeah, it was a whirlwind for sure.
I bet. You two were always there. Your wife is in culinary as well?
Yeah. So she has a pastry background.
Okay.
So she was, she was my right-hand lady right there with me. And, it was a full year of just hard work.
You guys had a solid burger. I had that burger several times when you guys were open.
Thank you. Yeah, we had some good hits there for sure. It was a fun time.
I think it's a great concept for folks to figure out, do I want to do this? How much scale do I want to actually have? And this is just like the first baby steps.
Yeah, just kind of let you kind of try things out, test things, see if, your concept is what you wanted to do, see if owning a restaurant was what you wanted to do. Just because at that point too, I remember, coming from working in different restaurants and clubs, I was never, of course I was thinking about, money and budget when I was doing things, but, versus then when it was my own money, I'm thinking about like, why are we going through 2 cases of paper towels this week versus one, you know what I mean? This is a very, very alarming thing. So definitely eye-opening for sure.
It's so sort of fundamental to get that business sense. I remember you didn't have tomato on the burger because that was sort of it's out of season, costs a lot. Like, why are we going to put something on that's meh? Yeah, I like that decision. You actually told me that once.
Yeah, my whole idea with that concept, not to go too deep into it, was just kind of take the fine dining approach that I had and kind of, fuse that with the fast casual concept that the Galley Group was. And, there was pros and cons to that for sure. We were kind of a little too ambitious in some things, but little things like that, like the burger, like there was a lot of technique that went into that. But at the end of the day, it was a hamburger.
It was good though.
Yeah,
it was really good. I do miss that place overall. And, we'll move on.
All right.
So you jump around a little bit even locally in Pittsburgh. I know you did some work over at Ironborn, Fish Nor Fowl.
Yep, that's right.
And then I don't know if I'm missing, fill in the patches here. So then
that was the most recent. I worked my first time in Pittsburgh. I worked at Salt of the Earth.
That's right.
That was the first job I ever had in the city. At that time, I wasn't familiar with Pittsburgh at all. It was my first time here, and I just Googled best restaurant in the city, and that was it. So I applied and kind of worked my way up there. But then, Salt of the Earth, the Deschamps Restaurant Group, Ironborn. It's been a good little run.
Yeah. And now I'd love to ask you how you describe to friends and family what you do now for work, because I have a struggle.
Yeah.
I say I do food media. I don't really say content creation. What do you say?
I content creation, or I just make food videos for the internet.
Yeah.
It's really that simple.
And it pays all the bills.
It does, thankfully.
Crazy.
Yeah.
You have a few other things going on. I mean, you've sort of expanded from just making egg pasta, and I should never belittle that. It's not just making egg pasta. People love it. But you have your own podcast.
I do.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So the Need to Know podcast is something that I started this past summer as really just a way to kind of get out of just having to do these 45, 60-second videos. Obviously, I love doing those videos. I'll always do those videos, but I wanted a way to have longer conversations. And also, with that said, over the past 5 years of doing this, I've been fortunate enough to meet and connect with some really, really incredible people that a lot of I really consider really great friends now. And I wanted a way to kind of bring all those people together. And at the end of the day, I found that the one thing that connects everyone, whether they're an athlete or a CEO, another creator, a celebrity, or whatever background they come from, everybody connects with food.
Yes.
And especially even more so pasta. Everybody loves pasta.
Everybody loves pasta.
Yeah. So it was a way for me to kind of bring all those things together, bring these connections I made, bring my love for pasta, love for just having conversation and bring that together with a plate of pasta. So it's been fun. We're about 8 episodes in right now and just having fun with it.
I have to say, as someone that's doing a podcast, you are a couple levels beyond what I would take a bite out of. You are doing audio and video. It's mainly more video.
Sure.
And it's entertaining. Yeah. And if folks haven't caught any of the episodes, in most of the videos, you're cooking pasta. You're cooking a dish from scratch.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't even know what you're going to cook for them now.
Yeah. It was definitely a challenge. And it was definitely a big undertaking, but I knew I had a vision for what I wanted when I launched it. Mm-hmm. And there's a reason why, I'm sure some people have wondered why we've only put out the amount of episodes that we have. And it's really just come down to being able to facilitate with the guests that we're going after.
Right.
I've, had the standard that for the guests that I bring on the podcast, I want them to be one of the best, most influential people in their field. And that's a very, very aggressive stance to take against getting guests.
Yes.
And so it's definitely been difficult. It hasn't been easy, but at the same time, we've really landed some incredible guests that I'm very grateful for. And I think that if we can keep on that path, it's really something special.
Let's remind listeners some of the guests you've had on so far.
Yeah. So we've had Larry Fitzgerald.
Mm-hmm.
We had him as the first interview that he had on the day that he got inducted into the Hall of Fame. We had Derek Shelton in the middle of the Pirates baseball season, the Pirates manager. Abby and Josh Herbert, Katie Feeney, she's a social media phenom.
Mm-hmm. All those folks are local here as well, Pittsburgh State College, right?
Yep, exactly. We just recently had Farmer Lee Jones, who we had chatted about. In the culinary world specifically, he's just an icon. So,
oh my gosh.
He's
one of my favorites so far, just secretly, because I need to go there.
You do. I'm going to bring you out there.
Oh my gosh, I would love that.
You would absolutely love it. It's a culinary wonderland. It's really incredible.
Mm. I'm so happy for you in all of these things. I mean, I really have to say, since that chance encounter, to just see your growth and then this crazy success that the internet and social media can provide us. But I do want to sort of pivot to that you've done a lot of these wonderful creative things, but you've also done some stuff like giving back.
Yep.
So I especially noticed Outreached Arms.
Yep.
I've worked there too. Can you tell folks a little bit about that and how you got involved with them?
Yeah. So it's going to be a long way to get to that answer, but I have to give the context to it. So in January of last year, so in my studio at home where I film all my videos, I have a refrigerator that's sole purpose is just to keep eggs. Mm-hmm. So I go through so many eggs that I need one just for eggs. So January of last year, I, for some reason, only had 1 dozen eggs in that fridge. And I was like, what am I going to do? I need to make a video with this. So I decided to make a video with 1 egg yolk, and I would spin the voiceover as I'm going to double it every day and whatever.
Yes.
See where it goes. Not thinking how fast that would compound.
Yes. The math nerds out there were like, oh, this is going to get good.
Yeah. I'm good at pasta. I'm not good at math.
Me neither.
So I did that one. The video went insanely viral. So I kept going. I did 1, I did 2, and whatever, so on and so forth. And when we got to 512 eggs, I realized at that point, if I wanted to do that one, I need to find a way to offload this pasta. Because at that point, up until then, I was just obviously eating it, my family, friends, neighbors, whatever. But especially coming from a culinary background, I do everything I can to limit food waste. There's going to be food waste in content creation. There is, but I think that we can do what we can to limit that. And so I couldn't, with a clear conscience, do 512 egg pasta without a way to use that pasta.
Right.
So I reached out to a couple of organizations here in Pittsburgh and got linked up with Outreached Arms. And I got on the phone with Rob, the director there. And I don't think he realized what I was doing or anything. Obviously not. And I was just like, hey man, I'm making a big batch of pasta. I hear you guys can feed homeless, you can feed those who need food. Can we link up on this? And so it worked out. They were able to take all that pasta from that batch. And then from there forward, we were just kind of able to link with them and facilitate getting all this food out.
You've done it more than once now, or more than one events with them.
Yeah, we did 512. That went to them. We did when we did the 1,000 egg batch, we ended up filming that at their location downtown. We did the 2,000 egg batch there, and then we also did 4,000 egg batch there. So,
what?
Yeah.
Goodness.
A lot of pasta.
That is a lot of pasta. Wow. And you end up linking up with Mr. Beast for some ungodly amount of eggs, right?
Yeah, that one was wild. After we did the 4,000, after we did 1,000, I told everybody, my videographers, everybody, like, hey, we're done.
Yeah.
I can't do anymore. Everyone sees the 45-second video, but they don't realize the amount of work that like goes into that. It's painstakingly hard work.
I have to just tell you as a side note, when I make something like pastry cream and I'm dealing with a bunch of eggs, I kind of get a little wheezy after a while. So I don't know how you do it.
Yeah. I've built it up now. So I told everybody we were done. And then after we did 4,000, again, I told everybody we're done. But I joked with my team. I was like, unless Mr. Beast reaches out.
Yes.
Biggest creator in the world. Like that's, the only way it's possible. And sure enough, we posted that video and 2 days later they reached out and said, hey, like we want to do it, but we want to round up to 10,000 eggs. Like, are you interested? And I was like, yeah, of course. Like, wow. So yeah, then again, of course we made this giant 10,000 egg pasta video. And then we're able to feed thousands of people with that food. So
wow, just
really, really incredible.
Where did you shoot this big one with?
So we went down to his headquarters in Greenville, North Carolina.
Yes.
We were there for about a week or so. Got linked up with some soup kitchens down there, and it's a win-win all around. Great content, but then also just doing something really, really good.
I love it.
Yeah. This is Ryan Peters of Peters Pasta, and you're listening to The Pittsburgh Dish.
Brian, I want to pivot a little bit too. You've made some great connections with these other like mega creators.
Yeah.
But you also have such a strong connection. You hinted at it earlier with the sports community.
Yeah.
Has sports always been just like a big thing in your life?
I love sports. I'm a sports fanatic.
You are.
And it's funny too, because growing up outside of Philadelphia, I grew up Philadelphia sports fan.
Yeah. You don't want to say that too loud around Pittsburgh.
Exactly. But once I started working in restaurants and things, I was working so much as a chef that I really wasn't even paying attention to sports anymore. Mm-hmm. So I kind of got removed from that for nearly 10 years. And then as I then moved back to Pittsburgh and started to have some more time, I just kind of fell in love with the Pittsburgh sports culture. And so when I launched my brand of Peters Pasta to kind of tie into sports, there was two things that I wanted people to always think of when they thought of my page was pasta, obviously, but then also Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. And then so to be able to tie in Pittsburgh sports teams, but then also now dozens of other, sports organizations around the country was really, really fun for me just as a fan of the sport.
Well, we should expand upon this. So somehow you were able to go to a lot of different stadiums and fields and make pasta like on the field or on the sideline or somewhere. Like how does this get going?
Yeah. So there's two parts to it, and I won't go too deep, and tell me to shut up whenever you
want. I love it. I love it.
So I kind of had this big success, this big blow up on social media during the pandemic when we're all stuck at home.
Right.
And here I was thinking, man, I'm like the man right now, but I can't go to Hollywood or any of these cool things that I see every influencer doing and things. And so I was like, all right, well, how can I, the pasta guy, do cool stuff?
Yeah. What's your niche? Right?
Everybody kind of told me that like, forget about it. Like, unless you're doing stuff besides pasta, like you're not going to be successful. So I was like, all right, cool. So as things started to open up from the pandemic and things were happening again, I reached out to, I think I already had a connection with the Steelers social media team. So I reached out to them and was like, hey, I have this crazy idea. Let me come to the field and make a batch of pasta in the stadium. And I wish I still remembered word for word what they said, but they were definitely like, that's really weird. But they said yes.
That's the only thing I needed. That's the only thing you needed, right?
So I went there, and very, very poorly shot video, just not good at all. But I did it, and the video didn't even perform that well. But I now had the first one done, and then I did it with the Pittsburgh Penguins as well. And I was like, all right, that was fun. I enjoyed that. It was kind of getting me out of the kitchen per se.
Yeah. But you're still doing the thing you love.
Exactly.
And now you're at places you love.
Right. So I looked at that as a way to really turn that into something more than just like a 1 or 2 off thing. Mm-hmm. So a couple other teams around the country saw those videos, and I'll never forget the Chicago Bears reached out to me after one of them and was like, hey, we'd love for you to come out to our preseason fan fest thing, do your thing here. And I was like, all right, cool. How does this work? You pay me? Do you fly me out? And they're like, no, none of that. I'm like, oh, man. Okay. And I was like, for some reason, I had a gut feeling that I should go, that I need to just pay my way out there. So I remember going upstairs to our bedroom to my wife, and I was like, hey, babe, I'm going to go to Chicago to do a collab with the Bears. And she got all excited. She's like, that's awesome. When are they flying you out? I was like, they're not. I was like, I'm going to drive out there, and I think it's going to work. So I ended up packing up the car, drove to Chicago, did a collab with the Bears. While I was out there, like when I was going to rest stops and stuff, I was just DMing like other Chicago teams and stuff, trying to double down on
Yeah,
this.
while you're there.
Exactly. So while I was there, I did the Bears. I was able to get in contact with the Chicago White Sox baseball team, did a collab with them, did a collab with the Chicago Bulls. Then on the drive back, I stopped in Detroit, did a collab with the Detroit Tigers. So I was able to hit 4 teams in a 2-day period.
So smart.
Yeah. And then that's when it really blew up. And I think now we've been to probably 2 or 3 dozen different stadiums. I've done it, besides just sports too. We've done it on top of the Empire State Building, in the middle of a Walmart, golf courses, NASCAR tracks, cruise ships. Really, the whole idea behind that whole series is just making pasta where you shouldn't make pasta.
Yeah.
And it's allowed me from a business perspective to like blend what I do with anything at this point. Like,
you actually kind of triumphed what you heard earlier as a negative, like, oh, you're not going to make it if you don't do
exactly
you keep doing your same thing or do something else.
Yep.
And I think you also hinted at a couple of things that are kind of strange in the creator space. Like, yes, we can get monetized on some of the social media platforms, but then you start getting offered things.
Yeah.
But do they pay and don't they pay? And then how do you develop your own self-worth and advocate for yourself and to say no to someone? In the early stages, it's super hard, right?
Yeah, it's very, very hard. Just kind of believing in what you're doing and knowing your worth. And I think too, I just want to make a note on like when people would tell me that, and still people to this day tell people like, hey, you shouldn't like niche down too hard or whatever. I think I disagree with that, because I think that you just have to be smarter and have a better strategy for what you do. Because I think most people on paper would look at a pasta creator collaborating with the NFL or with a cruise line or whatever. It just doesn't make sense. But I think that if you can, present it in a way that is different and unique and just resonates with the audience, then proof is in the concept. And if it works, it works.
I have to say, as a marketing thought, because it doesn't make sense is why it makes sense to me.
Correct.
Like, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
Why is this guy here?
Yeah. And then honestly, once I started doing a couple of them, the audience was just so enamored with where is he going to be next?
Right.
And they became involved with it. And it just became this really, really organic thing that was just a lot of fun.
I love it. You're making your way now into this great creator space, all of these followers, and coming back to sort of the soul of it all. I want to talk a little bit about your love of pasta.
Yeah.
You mentioned, you grew up in Reading. What was food life like growing up? I mean, did you cook from an early age, or were people cooking for you? Like, when did that start before the culinary experience?
So I grew up single mother. She cooked a ton. That was like very important for her. It was just kind of always making sure that we had a home cooked meal nearly every single night. And I'll give her credit. I mean, she was working a ton, and
that's mad credit.
Yeah, it's not great. I mean, I have trouble sometime and, making food for my wife and my son. And so, yeah, I give her a ton of credit that, and it's not like she was making these fine dining crazy things. She was making home cooked meals, but they were fantastic. And so I would always, bobble around the kitchen, helping her and things like that. And then as I got older, maybe 7, 8, 9, I'd start, playing restaurant and cooking, something for her or whatever it may be. But yeah, I mean, food for me as a kid growing up, it was just very, very simple. It wasn't anything special to it. I mean, it was special,
Yeah. But not elaborate yet.
Correct. Nothing crazy. Yeah. It took quite a few years for it to really develop.
Do you remember your first memories of pasta? Like, did your mom make spaghetti at home? Like, where did this come from?
I love you, Mom, but I don't remember you making fresh pasta.
Oh, my family never did. I can remember, like, at age, I think it was 8 or 9, I knew how to boil the box of pasta and heat up the sauce in what we would call like doctor it up, which was meaning to add sugar and garlic salt.
Some Italian seasoning or something. Yeah. I mean, I don't remember having a moment where I had that pasta moment.
Yeah. So is this adulthood? Is this like something from the culinary experience?
I think it would be adulthood.
I'm going to learn this and I'm going to champion this. And
well, so that story comes. So I want to say, I don't remember what year it was. It was probably 2017, 2018, probably 2018. And at that point I had made pasta countless times in restaurants and stuff, but never really thought much of it. I knew how to do it. I was good at it, but it was just another task of the day.
Right.
But at one point in 2018, I was at home with my wife and I made a batch of pasta for dinner, made some sauce. And for whatever reason, that pasta turned out great. It was delicious. We both enjoyed it. And so I woke up the next day and I made another pound of pasta. And I went to work, came home, rolled it out, made it into a shape. I was like, oh, that's good. So I went 64 days in a row of making a pound of pasta every day.
Every day at home?
Every single day.
Wow.
And that was the switch of my career where, I think a lot of young chefs and cooks struggle with finding where they want to place themselves in this world, which is hard. There's so many different lanes that you can go in. And I had found that was that light bulb moment for me, was like, I'm going to be a pasta chef.
This is my place in the food world.
This is it.
Yeah.
I had found my real, obviously passion, my passion was food and cooking, but this was really, really it.
Yeah.
So I took those 64 days, got obsessed with it. And that's when things started shifting. And I was like, all right, I'm going to find, Italian restaurants and pasta focused restaurants to work in, and just really kind of fell in love with the art and craft of pasta making. Because I think that so many people, when they think of it or when they make it, it's just, flour and eggs or flour and water. It's this very simple thing that on paper it's simple, but it really is very, very deep and very, very complex that I fell in love with.
Usually when it's the fewer ingredients, it has to be technique and love that kind of comes in and actually makes that whole dish shine. So
I tell people all the time that with a pasta dish, people ask me the key to making really, really great pasta. And I tell them it's to have the best flour and the best eggs you can get, because this isn't, a braised French red wine dish where you can hide behind red wine and butter and aromatics and things. Pasta is simple, and you have to have great ingredients and great technique. And like you said, it's easy to mess up.
Easy to mess up. Yeah.
It's hard to really nail.
It's hard to perfect it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, Ryan. So I think I'm going to move us forward a little bit. So you have a lot still going on right now, but I would love to ask, what's on the horizon for you? What's ahead? Any new goals, any new events or projects coming up?
Man, there's a ton. I think it's hard for me to put out actual goals. Sounds weird to say, but
I don't do it either. I just want to keep doing.
That's the thing is for me is I just want to keep progressing and keep getting better and keep pushing out more. And so I think the goal is just that, is to keep growing the brand in a lot of different ways. It's not just content. That's the podcast. That's long form content. That's, products that can be on the shelves or whatever it may be, cookbooks. I think there's a lot of different ways. I've been doing this now for almost 6 years, and yet I still feel like I'm just getting started.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's still so much I can do. Really though, in the next 12 months, I just expect a lot of growth from all aspects of the business, not just the content that everyone sees forward facing. That there's just kind of always stuff going on in the background. To keep things growing.
I love it.
Yeah.
So we will see more Need to Know podcast episodes.
Yep.
We will still see some more pasta making videos, maybe with some sauce.
Yep.
I just noticed one.
Oh yeah.
And it looked really good.
It was fantastic.
So good. Ryan, if there is someone out there under a rock that's not following you right now, could you remind us all of your social handles or your website?
Yep. It's just, if you search Peter's Pasta anywhere, that's the best way to find it. Instagram is the only one that's the curveball. It's Ryan Peters, PGH. But even still, I have made it now that on Instagram, if you search Peter's Pasta, I'm the first one that comes up. So Peter's Pasta everywhere is the best way to find me.
And the Need to Know podcast has its own handle on Instagram. Is that right?
Yeah. Need to, I don't even know my own handle.
I have it. I did slight research. I did 5 minutes of So, and the Need to Know podcast's handle is Need to Know Podcast. And the word need is like kneading dough.
Kneading dough, correct.
That's right.
Yeah. Little play on words.
I love it. Ryan, I always have an ending question for our guests. The name of the show is The Pittsburgh Dish.
Yeah.
What's the best dish you've eaten this past week?
Ooh. You're probably going to have to edit around this a little bit because I got to think.
It happens every time.
Yeah.
Big pause.
And I honestly, I've listened to enough of your episodes that I was prepared for, but I also wasn't at the same time. I usually try to get myself ready for podcasts with questions that I know that they always ask. And I forgot this time. Well, we don't eat out that much is the problem anymore. Ever since we had a kid, we just don't.
It's okay. Home food counts.
Okay. So it's hard for me to say the best thing I've eaten is, well, it's not hard for me to say that, but ever since our son was born, we just don't eat out anymore. Before our son, we used to eat out nearly every single night. We would just have a rotation of restaurants that were our go-to. So if it was a couple years ago, I'd pick one of those, but that's not the case. So I would say the best thing in the past week is, and this will be a little promo teaser for a video that might even be out by the time this comes out, but I just made an incredible, I have a really nice pizza oven at home, and we made a video on a Detroit style pizza that I made. And it was topped with pepperoni, burrata, hot honey, and pesto. And it was fantastic.
It sounds amazing.
It was so good. It was really, really good. I don't always nail everything I make, but I nailed this one. And it was really good.
I love Detroit pizza because I love the crust.
So crispy on the edges. Yeah.
And hot honey might be my new favorite thing on pizza.
It's so good.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ryan Peters, thank you so much for being on the Pittsburgh Dish.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Up next, where are you brunching lately? For Becca Hansborough, it's a hot spot in the Strip District. Hey everybody, we're joined today with Becca Hansborough of the 41 Chew on Instagram. And Rebecca, I was wondering, have you been anywhere recently, say for brunch, that was a real standout to you?
Yeah, so not too long ago with some foodie friends, actually, I went to Balvanera.
Oh, down in the Strip District.
Yeah, in the Strip District for brunch, and it was absolutely delicious.
Oh, so they're an Argentinian restaurant. I've known about them for dinner, but I don't think I know about them doing brunch.
Yeah, their brunch is really good. I feel like they have a good amount of options, like the standards. I got like an eggs Benedict dish that was very good. And for me, when I get eggs Benedict, for me, the most important part is obviously the egg. Do you pass the egg test? And I passed the egg test. And as soon as I cut it, it was kind of dripping off the side of the toast. And that's definitely what you want to see.
It needs to be that soft poach.
Yes. It has to be like the perfect amount. It was a perfect amount. It was really good. I think there was another person that got steak and eggs, which is a classic, which looked really good.
Yes.
The eggs looked like perfect over easy, which I feel like is typically really hard for restaurants to get, especially because like if you've ever made an egg before, especially over easy, by the time you're leaving the kitchen, it's probably going to get pretty hard.
I can't make an over easy egg.
Oh, I can't. I make eggs terribly. So yeah, that definitely stood out to me. And then they had some really good drinks. I think I had an espresso martini. That was pretty tasty.
That would be perfect for brunch.
Yeah, it was just like a perfect like yap and eat brunch experience.
I love that. Well, I have also been there once for sort of some small bites and cocktails, and they do in-house meat, like cured meats and sausages and stuff like that.
Yeah, I actually got a chorizo plate. It was very good, but this was all on me. I take full responsibility. I thought that it was going to be kind of like, I guess like a thicker chorizo, like maybe the sausage.
And this is more like almost like a deli cut.
This is a deli cut.
Yeah.
So it was very funny because when I got it, I kind of wanted to get it as a shareable, but it kind of came out looking like the missing piece of a charcuterie board.
Yes.
So the rest of the girls were kind of like, I don't know if that goes with anything they were eating. So I ended up taking the pieces of chorizo and putting them on top of my Benedicts. And it was actually a very tasty bite.
You might have started something new there. And they might say, do you want to add a chorizo flight on top of the Benedict?
Call it the 41 Chew, please.
Exactly.
I would love that. I would love to take full credit. But yeah, it's a really nice place.
I love it. And sometimes an ordering mistake is not a mistake.
Yeah, no, it was perfect.
It was.
Like I just pivoted. I was like, you know what? This is out here. It's delicious. Let's just combine the flavors and see what I have. So it was very good.
Oh. So Balvanera in the Strip District, they're great for dinner, but try them for brunch.
Try the brunch.
Oh,
yeah.
So good. Thanks so much.
Absolutely.
You can follow Rebecca on Instagram at the41chew. That's _41_chew. If you're holding on to eggs lately for dishes that you deem worthy, HongChing Cheung of Healthy Heartbeats has one that's worth the splurge. Hey everybody, we're back with HongChing Cheung of Healthy Heartbeats. HongChing, last time we were here, we were talking about some of the cuisine that your dad made. So do you have a recipe for us that's like a family dish? Or you mentioned your family was from Hong Kong. Any dish that you still like to make at home?
Yes. So there is a specific dish that I love to make, and everyone makes it slightly differently, but this is the way we made it at home. When I was younger and I was learning to cook, this was one of the first dish that I ever made. And it was tomatoes with eggs. Oh. It sounds simple, and it really is. It's you top it over rice. And so simple as it is, we use tomatoes, cut it up into slices, and you kind of like fry it a little bit, get it warmed up in the pan. You add some oil to it. Sometimes you can add sesame oil or keep it simple like olive oil. And then what you do next is you add one of the secret ingredients I found out after making it several times was actually adding the oyster sauce. Oh. Yeah, oyster sauce and ketchup. Those are the two main. Both. Whoa. Yes, to bring out that tomato flavoring. After adding that to it, you kind of like on the side would whisk up some eggs.
So they're scrambled a bit.
Scramble a bit, yes. And of course, like before you kind of pour the eggs in, we personally also are a big fan of cornstarch.
Okay,
which is in so many of our sauces.
It's a thickener in so many sauces, yes.
So we would put cornstarch and water, mix it up together, and then we'll add it to the tomatoes.
Yes,
tomato
that
paste.
little slurry will thicken everything up.
So after that, like heats up a bit, that's when you add in the egg and you mix it in. So it becomes this like, I don't know, like this slurry, this like, you know how like curry has that kind of thickening? It's like that.
In the best way.
In the best way.
Yeah.
And then you top it a little bit with soy sauce and white pepper, specifically white pepper. Okay. And it's simple as that, a cozy dish. I eat it all the time.
Is this for any time of day, breakfast, lunch, or dinner?
Yeah, it could be breakfast, lunch, or dinner. I typically eat it for lunch.
Okay.
So it's like I'm rediscovering some roots of like Hong Kong, right? And this is something that you eat at like a diner.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how to describe it, but what is that word?
It's food for everyone.
It's food for everyone, yeah. And it's a diner kind of food where I guess when you like go in, if you're like a construction worker or something, and like you're picking up food, it's like one of the takeout boxes. That would be your simple meal.
I love that. Keep doing it. Rediscovering your roots from cuisine of Hong Kong.
Thank you.
Oh, HongChing, thank you so much for sharing that recipe. And thanks for being on the Pittsburgh Dish.
Thank you for having us, Doug.
You can find HongChing Cheung and Julian Figueretti's Healthy Heartbeats product at local markets around Pittsburgh. And give them a follow at Healthy Heartbeats. That's BEETS. Do you have a recipe? Share it with us. Just visit our website at www.pittsburghdish.com and look for our Share a Recipe form. If you enjoyed the show, consider buying us a coffee for this episode or supporting the show monthly. You can find links to those options at the bottom of our show description. And if you want to follow my own food adventures, you can find me on social media at Doug Cooking. That's our show for this week. Thanks again to all of our guests and contributors, and to Kevin Selecki of Carnegie Accordion Company for providing the music to our show. We'll be back again next week with another fresh episode. Stay tuned.